Recently I covered a topic on my platform where they were discussing a clinic in, I think, Georgia somewhere that got, I don't know, raided and investigated for performance enhancing drugs. Performance enhancing drugs, HGH and shit like that. Some of the people named were some professional athletes and shit. How do you feel about HGH and performance enhancing drugs in boxing? Is that something throughout your career? Is that something that you've known guys to do or experiment with?
I was them guys. I was never around type guys that cheated. You are an athlete. You know what you got to do. Eat right, sleep right, friends is right, hard work. It's called crap game over.
Right.
When you're on that level, you're on to success.
Is this something that's been going on though? Like when they do the urines and stuff like that, is that something that they trying to detect?
It's been going on, but it was never brought to the forefront. They never advertised it, with the fighters, because fighters today, everything is about pay-per-view. If you can sell some pay-per-view things, they're going to poison you up and give you whatever you need to get there, to look good and to feel good and to keep it rolling. But that's just the world, that's just how the game is.
Recently, Errol Spence backed out of the Pacquiao fight. Allegedly, he had a eye injury. How you feel about that?
I mean, it's an eye injury that,
Is that a boxing injury?
One thing he has some buzz from boxing. But one thing about Earl, his nickname is the truth. And he is the truth. People talk about Errol Spence because he didn't get the gold medal in 2012, but he got the bronze. He got the bronze medal. But today, he's one of the best fighters out there, pound for pound. Pacquiao's a great legend, but youth against age is a big difference.
Floyd been exercising age. How you feel about that? Is that an isolated incident? Are you implying that Floyd got more gifts than Manny Pacquiao?
Not that he got more gifts than he's smarter than Manny Pacquiao. He witnessed all different parts of life. Pacquiao haven't witnessed different parts of life. You take Pacquiao to the ghetto, he's booked. And you take Floyd around millionaires, he's negotiating. He's standing on the shoulders of giants. You take him to the hood, he's running around with the dope fiends. Pacquiao can't do that. So there's ethics and morals in that.
Is there a difference between boxers that come from the West Coast as opposed to boxers that come from the East Coast? Is there a style difference? In basketball, I can list probably differences in styles as far as, skill sets in basketball. Is there a difference?
Well, boxing is different today. Boxing, you don't even really have to know boxing. I'm an old school fighter. I'm not no new school fighter. You hear teachers today, trainers and coaches. I've been in the game for 20 years. Been in the game for 20 years. I've been in it for 45, since I was 8 years old. I'm 53 now. I'll be 53, but I've been in it since, I've been in 45 years compared to 20 or 30 or 35. Look at the difference. Now, there's too many coaches. There's too many trainers. There's no teachers.
Back in the day, did certain trainers cover a large body of boxing, like guys like, Freddie Roach and these different dudes? Did they have the champions in the
guys, they was under the tutelage of geniuses. Freddie Roach come up under the tutelage of a guy by the name of Eddie Futch. Just Google and see what you come up with. You're coming up with 90 years worth of knowledge. Boxing just came to America in the early 1900s. Boxing over in Europe was in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. Boxing is new here. It's new. It's new, and
is that right? Is that right? Was this an important sport?
That's why, yes. But that's why you could be a coach, you could be a trainer, and you can get a fighter. You can't do it, and you think you do it. You go to Popovich and Phil Jackson and say, "Yo, let me work out with Kobe. Let me work out with Shaq and all." You can't do that. But in boxing, you can do it. And them is the ones that make it and the ones that don't make it.
When you what year did you become a pro? I got to give my viewers a little bit of insight. I've spoke to you on my platform before, but go ahead.
I turned pro in 1988, right after the Olympic trials, when I was associated with Riddick Bowe, Roy Jones Jr., Joe McClellan, and etc. We all come up out of the trials. But in '88, I had a good deal with one of the best promoters in the game, which is my promoter, and peace and blessing of God be upon him, just passed last year, Mike Aker, out of Erie, PA, the 814. So I turned pro with him in 1988 and went on and with my career after that.
How many tune-up fights after turning pro in '88? How many tune-up fights did you have before you encountered Oscar De La Hoya?
It was before the Oscar De La Hoya fight. People don't know. I was one of the top amateurs in the country. Me and Joe McClellan and Roy Jones, Riddick Bowe. I was 3-0 as a professional. I was on the verge of starting, and the boxing camp had burned down in California, PA, Pittsburgh, where Errol Knight was at, Hector Camacho, all those guys was up there at the camp. Don Turner, Buzz Garnick, them guys up at the camp. It burned down. Everybody had to go home, so I had to come back to a place called the 814, Erie, Pennsylvania, which I know the bloodline. When I came back here at 3-0, my best friend selling drugs told me, nigga, I said, nigga, I just fought on ESPN. He said, yeah, well, I just fought here on 23rd Street in Holland, and look what I got. He was driving a BMW and had a lot of money, and I had a Chevrolet Chalet. I was like, oh. So he put me in the game, and I went there, and then after that, a billionaire came to me, a guy by the name of Joe Preshak. I was 6'1". He came in contact with me. He said, leave the game alone, leave the streets alone and come with us. Joe Preshak, Don Preshak. He's the guys that own a place called Plastic Industry in the 814. Got a racetrack. They billionaires, they took care of me, and they the one that helped me get the fight with De La Hoya.
How was they able to put that together from way over here? And he was a gold medalist at the time, right?
Well, in his autobiography, De La Hoya talks about a guy by the name of Lamar Williams, which is the shining star, which is me, and said he's a grizzly, old head, older guy than me that I'm going up against. So what I got to do, he went to training camp out in Big Bear, California. He said he came out like a caged lion. And me, by just leaving the streets prior to that, within a year, I don't know how I came out. I know he came out like a caged lion, but before that fight, if people in the streets knew, before I fought De La Hoya, and they talking about, oh, he gave me all this money. Shit, I had just as much as money as De La Hoya had. And he won a gold medal and was the most celebrated Olympian that come out of the 92 Olympics. And you heard of the 92 Olympics. They had a basketball team called the
Dream Team.
Oh, yeah, Dream Team. And look who was on that. But he had the biggest thing going on at that time.
I told you I ain't going to keep you long. The last thing I want to ask you about is your relationship with Hector Camacho and Mitch Green.
They're my people, cuz. I love Mitch today. I just talked to him a few months ago when I was over around Europe. He was supposed to come visit me. And a sad tragedy happened to Hector Camacho years ago when he was murdered in his home of Puerto Rico, and he had nothing to do with something. And my dad had trained him. My dad had worked with Hector Camacho for many years, and that got me in touch. But with Mitch, I work with Mitch because I'm in and out of New York on the regular. And he always with that, he go get that Mike Tyson type thing. And I ain't trying to hear that. But I was friends with him for a long time in the amateurs. And that's just how the story goes.
No doubt. What was it like meeting Camacho for the first time? Camacho, I tell a lot of people, Hector Camacho was the first Floyd Mayweather. In terms of the showmanship.
Camacho He was a world champion at 21 years old. Sharp, fast, pretty, and you just couldn't hit him. He had that work ethic. He worked hard because he knew he had to bag it up. He was flamboyant. And he said, for me to talk shit, I gotta bag this shit up. I gotta keep it moving. So I'm gonna work hard and I'm gonna be in shape more than anybody I go in the ring with. And that's how he prevailed.
What's the number one exercise that's most essential to a boxer? Is it road work or is it?
Is stretching. Beats it all. It gives you agility. The move, you have tendons and ligaments that's hooked up to the bones, part of the muscle. And if them tendons and ligaments is not loosened and they break, now you got a problem. Now you down. Down goes Frazier. You down. And it's cool, you gotta regroup. Now you gotta take off a year to regroup. Do the math. Stretching. It kicks in everything.
No doubt. Lastly, in that article that I spoke of, there was a person whose identity was somewhat similar to Evander Holyfield. Birthday, address. This was an anonymous person whose name was found at this clinic. When they called, the phone number belonging to this anonymous person. Evander Holyfield answered the phone. Evander Holyfield, in my opinion, always had a freak-looking physique as opposed to the rest of the heavyweights.
Right.
Only other boxer I recall having a physique like that was the White Braxton, and of course he came from prison. Can you give me any opinionated information on how you feel about that? Evander's name being associated with HGH.
I mean, this is the way the world is, you know, and they gonna put something out there. One thing about Evander worked hard. He worked hard, and then my godfather, who's like an uncle to me, Don Turner, trained me and trained Evander Holyfield. And he said, don't nobody work hard as Evander Holyfield. He trained to 35 world champions. Do the math. Ain't nobody he know work harder than Evander Holyfield. So his agility and his movement and his stance and all that was taken care of by hard work. You know, one thing about Evander coming up, he slept right, he ate right, and his friends was right.
I notice you keep saying sleeping. Is rest a big part of an athlete's regimen?
It's the best. It's the best. As long as you get your rest, you gotta work out hard though. You don't work out hard and you rest all day every day, nah, it ain't gonna work. But you work out hard and you burn yourself, and it's like everything's come from the breath, breathing. Inhale, exhale. That's the name of the game. You break your breath, would you go to the hospital and say, cure me, I ain't breathing? You die.
Appreciate you being here, man. We're going to pick up on this another time. Lamar.
No doubt. I'll see you within the next day or two. I'm here. Love you.
Yeah.
814. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam.